The big dream and hope is you would hope that because of reduced administration through AI or automation, then that cost gets passed to the consumer.
AI is so transformational that it really could radically change the cost and experience in something like education or healthcare. But the way that will happen, I don't believe, is by AI.
There's no way AI is going to replace creativity. I sat in uni and lecturers were telling me that lawyers would never get replaced by AI.
My guesses are in the next 10 years, one is like just way more robots doing surgery. That's just like good. We are back with another episode of the Do As I Say, Not As I Did podcast, where we answer real and often insane Reddit questions about growing your startup. And today we're joined by Mark Woodland, the founder and CEO of Kismet. Kismet is tackling some of the biggest challenges in global healthcare, from chronic disease and aging populations to access and the infrastructure gaps, by reimagining how we care for each other in a digital and connected world. Mark is a seasoned entrepreneur and a former Australian Army NCO, known for his bold vision and relentless drive to make healthcare more personal, seamless, and immediate. So, mate, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm so excited to have you here and to meet you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, you're giving me your time, so I appreciate it.
Awesome, mate. Well, let's jump into the challenges. So, this is one I honestly have no idea about, so I'm keen to get your thoughts on it. This question is there any chance that AI actually deflates healthcare costs? Or is it just naive, wishful thinking? I know healthcare is trending towards inflation currently, but some really powerful AI tools for healthcare are becoming available that eliminate a lot of the administrative expenses and improve diagnostics. I wonder if these savings will actually pass to consumers or just increase profits for hospitals, etc. This is from Slacker Ninja 717.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Our whole premise is on the fact that you can reduce admin and you can make healthcare affordable and available, which is the two sort of table stakes that you have to have with any service sector. So my previous background being education, but you look at both service sectors the same. And you have a look at affordability and availability. So there's no point something being super affordable, but you have to travel 100 kilometers to get there. And there's vice versa. It doesn't matter if it's next door, but it costs you $1,000 an hour. So my argument is that regulation and administration increase those costs because people have to do that. And before AI, that's bodies solving those problems, or back to you as a consumer. I think the bigger kicker, though, for automation or AI is the third piece that no one ever talks about in education or healthcare, and it's suitability. So if you can do affordability and availability, which is you must do that to compete, then you add the third sprinkling of suitability. Am I seeing a healthcare provider that I actually like, or am I just picking the first healthcare provider that's the cheapest and available today, and I don't care about the third? That makes more sense if you're going for mental health. It makes a lot more sense in education. Heaven forbid a school system is actually suitable for the way a child's learning, or a hospital service is suitable for the way you are feeling. So the big dream and hope is you would hope that because of reduced administration through AI or automation, then that cost gets passed to the consumer. But the cynic in me would say you're probably right. It's an exercise in saving huge amounts of costs and keeping the profit. I mean, there has to be a balance at some point. But also, if you take the other side to that, is if it's easier for other people to compete and it becomes more competitive, the whole capitalist premise is more competition drives the price down and you get a better solution as a consumer. So I hope for that scenario, but the challenge you've got in education and healthcare, these are sectors that have not changed for hundreds of years. The system, the way it delivers an appointment, the way you go to school, it's been the same. So you need someone driving this change through the system to spur others to say, hey, I might have a go at this, and they might have better ideas than you, but you still always need that person to kickstart the competition. So my hope is AI solves the problems of the world. I think AI has shocked a lot of people because we all, including myself, or maybe not all, but I certainly sat there and was convinced that there's no way AI is going to replace creativity, and it's not going to be able to do videos, and it's not going to be able to do all these other things. I sat in uni and lecturers were telling me that lawyers would never get replaced by AI. Turns out all the things we said wouldn't get replaced by AI are here. and the stuff that is needed is no AI is nowhere near. So it's just an interesting way it's going to shape out, but I really hope it does reduce costs. I really hope that healthcare gets more affordable. I hope education gets more suitable. And I hope housing, which is the third one that we care about, becomes available and people can live. And I think if you solve those sort of three things, then people can start living life and not live in this survival mode. So long answer, but I really hope AI solves the problems. I hope we can drive prices down.
It's interesting that you've seen it from the education space as well. So I work in the education space. I've got no experience in the medical space whatsoever. But my thoughts I think I kind of mimic, I guess agree with a lot of your thoughts, which is like, I think AI is so transformational that it really could radically change the cost and experience in something like education or healthcare. But the way that will happen, I don't believe, is by AI changing internal big infrastructure. I think it's by empowering new competitive players that fully fucking disrupt the space. So in education, AI is going to come in. It's probably going to make parts of admin at a university way more effective to run. But university spending is like gas in a chamber. It expands to whatever was already there. So it's like they'll just spend that money somewhere else. It's like this amazing skill that big, ingrained organizations will have. And I think that's the same in healthcare. So I don't think, unless they have to, I don't think the cost is going to come down. But I think it can come down because I think AI is now allowing just completely new players to come up faster than ever before.
I agree. I think that's what hasn't been allowed before. You've got established systems that just don't let you play, and the gatekeepers of sectors. And I keep saying education and healthcare, so I see them the same. And you sprinkle in aged care in healthcare, and it's the same thing playing out. Established blockers, but AI breaks those barriers down and gives everyone sort of an even playing field. Or at least an accelerated playing field for people that would have to sit there for 10, 15 years to try and build up this infrastructure to compete, only to be bought out anyway and to be jammed back into the system. So yeah, I'm hopeful, but yeah, it doesn't stop the drive, and I'm actually talking next week about encouraging more entrepreneurs to focus on those three sort of survival things: housing, education, and healthcare, and maybe not some of the shiny things and all the stuff we think is innovation. I think we need to innovate in infrastructure as much as we need to innovate in technology, which starts solving that gas chamber stuff that you're talking about.
I love it. Well, Slacker Ninja, I guess the answer is maybe. I guess the answer,
non-answer.
Yeah, like I think it can, but and we both hope it does, but we'll see. We'll see if regulation allows. And then this is like a similar vein question. So we'll move to the next question here, which is, why is it difficult for healthcare systems to implement new technology? I'm a final year med student, and I'm asking this question out of curiosity. Why is it that health systems and hospitals are seemingly slow and unable to implement modern technology? For example, our ECG machines are allegedly far worse than AI at interpreting ECGs, which is, in my experience, also the case. And many hospitals are still using paper notes and charting systems. Does anyone have more experience with anything they know about this and why this actually happens? So this is from YG832.
It's a good question, and it's a frustrating thing to watch because you see it all over the place. I mean, my default, and I'm not a doctor of any description, but I would argue that what I hear and the default is, it works, it's trusted, there's a process, we've got people's lives in our hands. It's all those answers that you'll get, and I'm sure there's places out there innovating. And what we see also in government, if you sprinkle government in there, is by the time they do implement these things, it's sort of 5 years too late, and there's 5 years something else has come out. And especially in this world of AI, the speed that it's moving at, like, you're just being left behind, and that's going to be the challenge. And then all of a sudden, by the time you catch up, something's new out. So this is an infrastructure. It's not infrastructure in the sense of physical things. It's a infrastructure thought process of how do we be more early adoption of new technology, software, so it helps people and not be constantly fearful of what that might mean. And there's probably a group of consumers that would be happy to have this type of service. There's a group of consumers that won't be happy to have this type of service. So give people a choice. I think Australia's got this attitude of one in, all in type stuff, and it's a lack of choice. So one hospital does this, they're all the same. One bank does this, they're all the same. It's a fake sense of choice. All that's changing is the color of the brand or the logo that you go to. So I would think there needs to be a whole innovation thought process change around the way it does. It comes back to regulation and how do you lift some of that regulation so we can innovate and speed things up. It's not saying it's without risk. 100% there's risk, but at what point do you sit here and never take any risk and the system stays the way it is? So that would be my take on it. And I see this change management stuff happen all the time. And you see that people are just fearful of change. And fearful not because they're scared as individuals, but they're responsible for entire hospitals and the people's lives in there. So it's real fear. It's just how do you support those people move through that change and make it exciting and what incentivize them to do it.
Mark, I think that's the easy answer, but I actually don't think it's the correct answer. I have a different opinion on this, and I'm not in healthcare, but I'm transposing from edtech or education, higher education, because I think there's similarities here. I think saying I'm fearful because there's people's lives at risk is actually a weak answer not for you, for them to say, because, there is technology now that is proving that it more regularly has better results than using old shit machines. So it's just like, so if that was truly the case, they would be obliged to use a new technology. Like if that was actually the case, my gut feel is that I don't think there's enough incentive for university or hospital executives to make a change, right? Like at this top level, they're getting a great paycheck. There's a job above them, which is an even better paycheck, and they need to do the right thing to get to that level. Like, and I'm not to say no one's here is altruistic. Like definitely like these people start out and they want to do the right thing. But like, why would you risk everything for a huge change management piece that's expensive? It's going to be extra work for you, when if you just did the same thing, in 2 years' time, you're probably going to get the promotion anyway and going to make a shitload of money on the way. Like, I just think the incentives are kind of wrong at the executive level.
I completely agree with the incentivization of it. I also think you're not incentivized through regulation to take the risk. It's not just, incremental growth and you hit your targets, you get your bonus, you take that. That's the incentive. So why change it? To your point, there's no need to get 100. You can remove the thought of life if you're thinking about money and just trying to increase your bonus. But I would also argue from the regulation side is, another easy excuse is, well, the regulation doesn't let me, so therefore I'm playing by the rules. So there's no reason to improve the system. So I completely agree. And I agree with that with education. Why would you be incentivized to have personalized learning? But that's hard. That's not easy. It's more hours. It's longer time. Why would you be incentivized to give up your time to help a child? Like, you're not. Outside love and passion, which there's doctors and educators that you put that on the record. This is not a generalization of everyone, but there's no incentivization. And I would argue again, it's not about just, well, you hear this debate all the time. We need to pay nurses and teachers more. Yes, absolutely. But how? Like, what's the solution? So I agree. So why not incentivize the hospitals and the schools or the unis to innovate, create more profits, help more people, lower costs, do all those things? But it's not a competitive market. This is the problem. They're monopolies or duopolies. They're not. There's no competition. And you're certainly not competing on price. It doesn't matter where you go. It's all the same price. So it's not competition. So I agree with incentives.
Yeah, and I guess I also agree with regulation, right? Like regulation sometimes does make things just impossible. Like how could they possibly let go of something when they've got to spend, 1,000 man hours a year at a hospital just like filling out manual forms. Like it's
Yep.
crazy. Like that kind of stuff is so prohibitive.
Yeah,
Um,
there's audits, there's time suck. Like there's just your time doesn't allow for innovation. This is my bigger challenge. Like everyone's in survival mode. So even if you look at companies and just staying alive, they don't have time to innovate. They don't have time to think about, oh, what would be happening if we change this? They're literally surviving, and it's a terrible thing to watch.
so I think we've done a pretty good job of painting a picture here of what it's like. Now you've managed to overcome this. How are you overcoming this stasis?
Yeah, I mean, we've still got a lot of work. It's not like we've changed the world or done anything, but I mean, I, I can talk about both. And I'm sorry I keep bringing it into education. There's
Well, I
just so
love
many,
education, so I'm down for education, right?
there's just so many similarities, and I see healthcare. So I'll just cross the boundaries all the time. But if you think about education, when we went into education, we went into early education. One of the biggest things we fought, and this was in 2016. So I don't know, what's that, 9 years ago, thereabouts? I don't know what year we're in, 9 years ago. Um, there was still a requirement by legislation that you had to sign on a piece of paper the time you drop your child off, the time you pick them up, and you sign your signature next to it. Our argument is, well, and then you'd take that piece of paper and you'd manually enter it into a system and then send that to the government. So huge amounts of errors that can happen
Yeah.
through just that little process. And then what the legislation allowed was anyone could sign your name if you forgot to
Mm.
sign it. So why bother in the first place? It's all fake. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. But sure, let's pretend because we've got a physical signature. So our whole argument was, why not do that digitally through a QR code or through Bluetooth beacons and automatically register it? We know the parent owns the phone, so it's a little bit more secure. They've put their fingerprint in. I can't just sign people in and create fraud and things like that. We had to fight years for that. Um, so it's that type of stuff. It's not big game changing stuff that you have to change. It's all these little things that just add up to more and more time, where you don't get to actually teach a child. So you look at that with healthcare, the same thing exists. I was shocked when I entered healthcare only 2 years ago, thinking surely someone solved these problems because we've been in education doing education things. Turns out it's the same. It's paper, it's Excel, it's the biggest type of technology that exists is sort of Salesforce CRMs, and people get excited by that. It's government saying they're going to build a new system in 5 years. That's another CRM. Like there's no thought on automation. It's literally taking what you do on paper and replicating that in the digital world. That's not innovation. What we look at is how do you actually remove that piece of pain completely? And that's where we get a lot of our success. Does that even have to exist? Now, we understand the why. You want to know a child's been dropped off and you want to know they're safe. Not a problem. You want to know someone's attended a physio appointment and has had the right amount of hours that they've seen them for. Not a problem. We can do that. If that's what your goal is, you don't need pointless steps in order to achieve that. So we just jump straight to the end. What are we solving? And we solve that and get rid of everything else in between. And that's where we've had all our success. We do that with everything we do, the way we build technology, the way we help people sign on to the product, how do you create an account, all this type of thing. So it's just, what are you trying to achieve, and why do you even have these steps in place is how we look at it.
And like, you are achieving this scale, which like seems counterintuitive to the challenges in the space. So like, you find the real problems out of there, but even when there are real problems, they are still kind of like hesitant around them. Like, what's your approach to getting people's buy-in? Are you finding the early adopters, or like how are you helping them to take? At the end of the day, everything you're getting them to do is a risk to some extent. Like, it's
Yeah.
different, you're right.
Yeah, I don't know if it's been more time in sectors that need change management, or people are getting so fed up they're just happy to change. So there, as I say, there's 2016 in education. That was a real slog. People didn't want to change. Why do we need to change? It's always worked this way. It's fine. real fights, real battles to change. What we found in healthcare, either we've gotten better at helping people on that journey, which would definitely be an element to it. But people are willing, they're over it. People are really over it. Now, the difference also in that time frame is there's been a generational shift. You've now got sort of millennial parents expecting technology in service sectors compared to what happened, only 10 years ago, a bit longer, where it was a different generation. I'm not picking on generations. I dare not do that. But they weren't expecting technology. They were capable of using it, but it wasn't an expectation. But if I asked you to sign on a piece of paper, when you just no. So why? Even scanning a QR code is a little bit outdated. So there's a different expectation of people. We used to call them helicopter parents. I haven't heard that term for about 10 years because now it's parenting. You want to know what your kids are doing. You want to be involved. You want to get updates. You want to be able to talk to them at the end of the day. That used to be called helicopter parenting. It used to be told, no, drop your kids off, stop worrying about them, harden up, go to work. So I would argue there's a few things playing into it, which is nice because we're right here at the right time, right place.
I love that, man. I always think, for a company to truly become huge and transformational and make a big dent on the world is that you obviously need to have a problem that's painful enough that people pay for and come back again and again. But I think actually more importantly is that you need to have a moment in time, a wave that you can ride. And that's an interesting wave I hadn't considered, right? Which is that there is this new wave of parents and new wave of adults really who will have different sets of expectations about the way they engage with technology. And then that's also a way that change in healthcare can happen when people demand the change.
That's it.
I just went to a doctor's appointment the other day and I had to fill out a 5-page paper form. And I was like, what the hell? Is someone going to type this in? This is fucked up. I was like, just give me the link. I'll do it. It'll be how can you even read my writing? It's terrible.
That's it. And the admin that it would take just to manage that piece of paper, it doesn't make sense. So yeah, I guess that's where change comes. But sort of last point on that thing, on the change of generation, you've also got a generation that's can't afford a home, that it's hard to live. We're going through, not that this is where poor me, but there's just different challenges that this generation has to navigate. And then the generation coming up behind us is going to have to navigate the bigger challenges. They're different. And then you've got AI sprinkled in there. And what does that look like? Can I even get a job anymore, let alone afford a home, let alone send my kids to school or pay for healthcare? So there's challenges, and that's the generation solving it. But hopefully, the generation that goes before helps them solve it. It's not just focused on themselves.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, YG832, I think there's a lot of content there for you, and probably way more than you asked for. So you're welcome. I think that was, I like to go a level deeper there to kind of understand how do you overcome those challenges as well. But we'll move on to probably the last question we're going to have time for. So this one is, what do you think healthcare will look like in 20 years? With all the new wearable tech and AI coming out, I have no doubt healthcare is going to be seriously disrupted. What do you think it will look like in 5, 10, 20 years? This is from Neurotech Nerd. And I'm interested, right, because you're obviously doing a lot about, like you just said, right, there's a wave happening right now that you're being able to capitalize on and bring tech into it. It is only going to get faster. So where do you see it going, right? There's going to be so much data. But yeah, I don't know, what comes to your mind? Where are you shooting for?
There's so many things. And I don't know 20, but I would predict 10. 20 would just be insane because if you think about what we didn't have 20 years ago and what we have now, like if you can predict that, it'd be a game changer. But assuming we're not on Mars and it'd be wild. But anyway, 10 years, that's actually achievable. I mean, you have a look at some of the technology that's firing up now, like Neuralink and robots. So let's just start there. You would assume, Neuralink's starting to solve things like sight and all sorts of things that we just don't have now. So you would assume in 10 years, some of those challenges people can be solved. So those sorts of healthcare and Yeah, you just don't have that burden. It's a different type of burden, and you're going to need some of those things to stay out of the system. Because also in 10 years, just the picture of the world, you have the largest population fully aged, which is baby boomers, and you've got the second largest population if you go to 20 years starting to age, which is millennials. So the majority of the population is above 50. Um, so that sort of just sets the scene. And if you keep birth rates at the same rate they are now, the population or the birth rates declining. So you've got structural challenges coming. You can't age in place because maybe housing hasn't been solved. So, large homes are not the thing. So you can't have multi-generational people living in a house. And, there's that natural people aren't having as many children. So you don't have children being able to take care of those families. So, that's where robots and things come in, and AI. So AI in robots doing those tasks in the home of what a nurse or a family member might do, I would definitely see that happening. I would definitely see robots being or self-driving cars taking you to appointments. So it's that type of support you would need to be able to maintain some form of lifestyle after retirement age. Retirement age is probably increased at that stage because people are still working to survive. It's all doom and gloom stuff. Or the positive is we solve all of this very, very quickly. And there's some form of universal income that lets you do amazing things because AI is doing all the things that you don't want to do. And if you want to be an artist or you want to do all the amazing things that you like, you can have that opportunity to earn money in competition. And your healthcare is being taken care of because there's more early intervention, there's earlier diagnosis. AI is now able to predict what things might be occurring as you get older, but also giving you the solutions to solve that. The positives is we've solved affordability and availability, and now it's all suitability. So you actually enjoy going to the doctor because they've become your friend, and your health works. So there's negatives and positives, but the challenge with the positives, unless you change the system now, in 10 years' time, it's too late to change it because you're not only just changing the system to catch up, there's another sort of generational shift that's occurred, but it's a technology shift that's occurred, and we're really in trouble. So I don't know, 10 years can be very, very exciting, which is why I'm here. I'm super excited for the future. It doesn't sound like it, but I'm very excited for it. 20 years, you could completely have an incredible place for your children and their potential families they might have. That's the hope and dream. But boy, is there work. I would argue there's a lot of work to be done, and you may never see the benefit of it, but it's exciting to do that work right now.
Yeah. I'm a little bit, again, I don't know too much, but if I look at the patterns that I see in healthcare and education, which that if I look 10 years ago about how much education's changed, I'm like, it's not that much, which is crazy because technology's changed a lot.
Yeah.
So I think about like, what I realistically think is going to happen in healthcare in 10 years. And I think the existing providers, the big monopolies and duopolies are probably going to be pretty similar. Like there's going to be cursory changes, maybe some improved experiences. But I do think in 10 years' time, because of how fast AI is enabling businesses to build, they're going to be starting to really be under pressure from new versions of healthcare, new ways of engaging with healthcare and stuff like that have come out of the blue. So I think in 10 years' time, we're going to really feel the pressure. In 20 years' time, I'm hoping that those new upstarts have actually forced the big ones to change or killed them. I think that's where we'll get there. My guesses are in the next 10 years, what I would really hope to see, one is like just way more robots doing surgery. Cause like, that's just like good. Like robots would be way better at doing surgery. Like, there's a reason, humans don't build a lot of shit, right? It's like robots are fucking great. So I think there's not for everything in 10 years, but I think for a lot of stuff, we should start to see at least robot supported surgeries. And I also love the idea of like training like a nurse is like a pretty affordable thing. Like it's only 3 or 4 years opposed to whatever it takes for a doctor, 10 or what seems like 20 years, right? I think really using AI to empower and embolden nurses, meaning that we can go out and give way more resources to rural locations. So like have nurses that are just mega empowered with AI all the time, so that where we can't get great doctors, we can get just like a ton of like superpower nurses.
Yeah.
I hope that happens.
Yeah, no, I'm an optimist. Doesn't definitely apologies for the pessimistic outlook, but yeah, no, definitely an optimist. I think technology's whole point is to help. It shouldn't
Yeah.
replace. It should just empower. Um, and then to the original question and point, like if you've got robots doing all these things, surely that frees up the people to have the conversations with you when you get to the hospital, to sit with
Yeah.
the families and provide that personal connection that everyone's sort of rushing to now because they've got admin to go to or they've got another appointment to get to. If that's all taken care of and you can actually have a nice conversation with a nurse or a doctor when you get to
Yeah.
hospital and they can put your mind at ease because you got a family member in there, that's a win. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe I just actually dream of better communication in a hospital, not just waiting around for fucking 10 hours not knowing
yeah, that's it.
anything.
Filling in paper forms. So surely a
Yeah,
robot.
yeah. Yeah, nice. All right, mate. Well, appreciate that. Well, you're a tech nerd. That's it. Bet on that. So that's it, mate. So we'll move on to the last section of the show, which is plug. So what's going on, Mark? What do you want to plug? Business, books, podcasts, anything?
All of them. I mean, I'm super biased. I think Kismet's amazing. I think we're doing some really cool things, but we run community events all around the country for people with a disability or people helping someone with a disability. It's called One Community. They're really cool events that get to come to, especially as you start aging, or 1 in 5 people know someone with a disability. So they're good events to get the physical connection, not just that digital connection. Talk to someone that's going through it, talk to a family member, talk to a healthcare provider that you can't find. So we run these events for that physical connection. But I'm rereading a great book. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Extreme Ownership.
Oh,
Written
yeah,
by
by Jocko.
That's it. So I'm reading. I have to read it in small doses because every time I read it, I can see Jocko's face just telling me, "You suck. Do better."
Yeah. Sometimes you need that, right?
Yeah, so I take it in small doses. But yeah, myself and the team are sort of rereading that at the moment. So it's always a good book.
Love it. Awesome, mate. Well, hey, Mark, thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate the advice and diving into this. So it's been a great conversation.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Well, this has been another episode of the Do As I Say, Not As I Did podcast. We'll see you all next week.